This revenge story contains intense acts of retribution that may be excessive and could be disturbing to some viewers.
The living room was a tomb of flickering light, the street lamp outside sputtering through the blinds. Shadows clawed across the hardwood, sharp and restless, as if they knew something I didn't. The air hung heavy, thick with silence that buzzed in my ears. Scarlett slipped out the front door, her boots tapping a quick retreat. "Late shift again," she called over her shoulder, her voice too casual, like she was tossing me a scrap. The door clicked shut, and she was gone. I stood by the window, peering through the slats. Her silhouette darted to the car, keys jangling, her coat flapping like wings in the dark. A trace of her perfume lingered, jasmine, cloying and sharp. My stomach twisted. She's lying. The thought stabbed me, quick and cold. I didn't want it to be true, but the late nights, the excuses, they stacked up like evidence in a trial I wasn't ready to face. We'd been unraveling for months. High school sweethearts turned strangers. Our marriage a threadbare quilt patched with forced smiles. Her girls' nights stretched longer, her phone buzzed more, and our bed stayed cold. I turned from the window, the floor groaning under my weight. The couch sagged as I dropped onto it, leather creaking. My reflection flickered in the dead television screen-tight jaw, shadowed eyes. When did I become this guy? Her purse slumped on the armchair, zipper gaping. My pulse thudded, a drumbeat urging me forward. Just ask her, I thought, but my throat locked up. What if she laughed it off? What if she didn't? I stood, pacing, my socks whispering against the rug. The street lamp flickered again, shadows dancing like they were taunting me. I stopped, stared at the purse. Check it. My hand twitched, guilt prickling my neck, but suspicion burned hotter. I grabbed it, dug past receipts and gum. Her phone here, usual one, slid out. I unlocked it. Text from Jen, a dumb meme, nothing. Relief hit me, a shaky laugh bubbling up. Paranoid idiot? Then my fingers brushed something else. A second phone. Cheap, no lock. My breath snagged as I opened it. Messages, Scarlett and Jose. "Last night was unreal," he wrote. "Next time's even better," she replied. My chest caved. A warehouse behind a motel. "Cold places are the best," she'd typed. "Playful," he'd answered. "Fantasy come true next time." "Yeah?" The phone slipped, thudding on the floor. Bile rose, sharp and sour. The room tilted, shadows blurring. How long? Too long. I stumbled to the couch, legs jelly, hands shaking. Rage clawed up my spine, hot and jagged. I snatched a burner, shoved it back in her purse. Not yet. I needed proof. A plan. They'd pay both of them. The street lamp flickered out, plunging the room into black. It was well past midnight, and the house was a crypt of silence. I lay in bed, the sheets twisted around my legs, my mind a battlefield of suspicion and denial. Scarlett hadn't come to bed again. She'd mumbled something about being too tired and crashed on the couch. Another night, another excuse. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks in the plaster, willing sleep to come. It didn't. With a sigh, I sat up, the mattress groaning under me. The digital clock glowed 1:15 a.m., its red numbers mocking my insomnia. I rubbed my eyes, gritty from lack of sleep, and swung my legs over the side of the bed. The floor was cold against my bare feet, sending a shiver up my spine. Maybe a glass of water would help. Or maybe I just needed to check on her, make sure she was okay. Yeah, right. A voice in my head sneered. You just want to snoop. I padded down the hallway, the wood creaking with each step. The living room was dim, lit only by the faint glow of the street lamp filtering through the blinds. Scarlett was sprawled on the couch, one arm flung over her head, her breathing deep and even. She looked peaceful, innocent. My heart ached with a mix of love and doubt. Her purse sat on the coffee table, half open, like an invitation. I stared at it, my pulse quickening. Don't do it, I told myself. Trust her. But trust was a fragile thing, and mine was already cracked. I took a step closer, then another. My hand hovered over the purse, trembling. Just look. If there's nothing, you'll feel better. If there is, I didn't finish the thought. With a deep breath, I plunged my hand into the bag, feeling past her wallet, keys, a tube of lipstick. There her phone. I pulled it out, the screen lighting up with a swipe. Text from Jen, a notification from Instagram, nothing unusual. I exhaled, relief flooding through me. See? You're being paranoid. But as I went to put it back, my fingers brushed against something else. Another phone, smaller, cheaper. My stomach dropped. Why would she have two phones? I glanced at Scarlett, still asleep, then back at the device. It was unlocked, the message app open. My thumb hovered over the screen, a mix of dread and curiosity churning inside me. I tapped on the first conversation. Jose. My throat tightened. I knew him or boss at the restaurant, married, with kids. What was he doing texting her on a burner phone? Last night was amazing, his message read. Can't wait for next time. My blood ran cold. I scrolled up, each message a punch to the gut. Miss you already, Scarlett had written earlier that day. Same here. That warehouse is perfect, huh? So secluded, he replied. Yeah, and cold. But that's part of the fun, right? She said, with a winking emoji. Next time, you're gonna make my fantasy come true, yeah? He asked. Only if you're good, she teased. I couldn't read anymore. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the table. Scarlett stirred but didn't wake. I sank to the floor, my legs giving out, my breath coming in ragged gasps. How could she? After everything we'd been through, after all the promises we'd made, I thought back to our wedding day, unofficial as it was just us and a couple of friends at the courthouse. We'd laughed about saving money for a real ceremony someday. Now, that dream felt like a cruel joke. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away. No, I wouldn't cry. Not yet. First, I needed to understand how deep this went, how long she'd been lying to me. I picked up the phone again, forcing myself to read more. Dates, times, places they'd been meeting for months, it seemed. The warehouse behind the old motel on Route 9 every Tuesday and Friday night. That explained her late shifts. Rage bubbled up, hot and fierce. I wanted to storm into the bedroom, wake her up, and demand answers. But what would that accomplish? She'd lie, or worse, admit it and walk out. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed proof, something she couldn't deny, something that would make her and Jose pay for what they'd done. An idea sparked in my mind. The warehouse, they'd be there again, probably this week. I could follow them, catch them in the act. But that was risky. They might see me. Better yet, I could set up cameras, record everything. Then I'd have all the evidence I needed. A grim smile tugged at my lips. Yes, that was the way to go. I'd play their game, but I'd play it better. I slipped the phone back into her purse, exactly as I'd found it. Scarlett shifted, murmuring something in her sleep. I froze, but she didn't wake. Carefully, I stood up, my joints protesting. Back in the bedroom, I lay down, staring at the ceiling once more. But this time, my mind wasn't racing with doubts, it was plotting, scheming. I'd need to buy cameras, figure out how to install them without being seen. Maybe I could scout the warehouse tomorrow, get a lay of the land. As the first light of dawn crept through the window, I finally closed my eyes. Sleep came, but it was fitful, filled with dreams of betrayal and revenge. The sun was barely up when I peeled myself out of bed, my head pounding from a night of jagged dreams. Scarlett was already gone off to her morning shift, no doubt. I didn't care anymore. My feet hit the floor, cold and hard, and I shuffled to the kitchen. Coffee hissed into the pot, the bitter smell cutting through the haze in my brain. I gulped it down black, scalding my tongue, but it woke me up. Today wasn't about wallowing. It was about action. I grabbed my keys and headed out, the truck's engine rumbling to life. First stop, the electronics store on Main Street. The bell jangled as I pushed through the door, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. A kid with a name tag Tyler looked up from his phone. Need something? He asked, voice flat. Yeah, I said, keeping it low. Cameras. Small ones. Gotta work in the dark. Streamed to my phone. My words came out clipped. Urgent. Like I was spitting nails. Tyler raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. Night vision, huh? We've got these. He slid 2 tiny black boxes across the counter. Lenses glinting like spider eyes. Battery lasts 8 hours. Connects to an app. $50 each. I nodded, digging out my wallet. They record? Yup. Motion, triggered, or manual. He tapped one. Set 'em up any walls, corners, whatever. Good. I slapped the cash down, my hand steady despite the adrenaline spiking through me. Throw in some mounting tape. He did, and I was out the door in 5 minutes, the bag swinging against my leg as I climbed back into the truck. Next stop, the warehouse. Route 9 stretched out, a gray ribbon of asphalt, flanked by scraggly pines and faded billboards. The motel came into view a squat, peeling dump with a flickering vacancy sign. I pulled into the lot, parking near the dumpster so my truck blended in. The air smelled like stale grease and wet dirt as I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel. Behind the motel, the warehouse loomed rusted metal walls. A sagging roof, windows smashed out years ago. Perfect for their little rendezvous. I circled it, scoping the layout. Weeds scratched at my jeans and a chill wind whistled through the broken panes. The front had a sliding door, warped but solid, with a rusty latch. I tugged it open, the screech of metal setting my teeth on edge. Inside, it was dark and damp, the floor littered with broken glass and cigarette butts. The air was thick with mildew, stinging my nose. My flashlight beam danced over the wall-scracked concrete, peeling paint, plenty of spots to hide the cameras. I picked a corner near the entrance, where they'd stumble in, too caught up to notice. The mounting tape stuck fast, and I pressed the first camera into place, its lens angled to catch the whole room. My breath fogged in the cold as I adjusted it, fingers numb. The second went higher, tucked behind a rusted beam backup in case they shifted spots. I pulled up the app on my phone, the feed flickering to life. Grainy, but clear. Scarlett's laugh would look ugly on that screen. One more thing. I ducked out to the hardware store, the clerk barely glancing up as I snagged a slide bolt lock from the aisle. Back at the warehouse, I tested it on the door. It slid shut with a satisfying click, sturdy enough to hold. They wouldn't get out unless I let them. My lips twitched a grin, maybe, or grimace. I wasn't sure anymore. Back in the truck, I sat for a minute, staring at the motel's flickering sign. My chest was tight, like a coiled spring ready to snap. This wasn't just about catching them. It was about taking back what they'd stolen me trust, my pride. I imagined Scarlett's face when she realized Jose's smug grin wiped clean. The thought warmed me, sharp and fierce, cutting through the chill. I fired up the engine and peeled out, gravel spitting behind me. Tomorrow night she'd say it again, late shift, drinks with the crew. I'd nod, play the fool one last time. Then I'd wait, watch, and lock them in their own damn cage. The cameras hummed in the bag beside me, silent partners in my revenge. The night was a black shroud, swallowing the streetlights as I eased my truck into a spot a block from the warehouse. The engine ticked off, leaving only the hum of crickets and my own shallow breathing. I grabbed the bag from the gas station sandwich unwrapped, coffee steaming in a cheap styrofoam cup. My hands shook as I took a bite, the bread dry in my mouth. Didn't matter. Food was just fuel tonight. Scarlett had left an hour ago, her voice breezy over dinner. Late shift again, then drinks with the crew. Don't wait up. She'd pecked my cheek, her lips cold, and I'd forced a smile. Take it easy, I'd said, the words tasting like ash. Now here I was, parked in the shadows, the dashboard clock glowing 10:15 p.m., my phone sat propped on the dash, the camera app open, feeds dark and waiting. I sipped the coffee, the heat searing my throat, grounding me. My leg bounced, restless, as I scanned the lot. The motel's neon sign flickered, casting a sickly pink glow over the gravel. The warehouse squatted behind it, a hulking silhouette against the pines. My chest tightened half dread, half thrill. This was it. No turning back. Headlights sliced through the dark at 10:30. Scarlett's sedan rolled in, tires crunching, followed by Jose's rusted SUV. They climbed out, her laugh cutting the silence like a blade. She tossed her hair, and he grabbed her waist, pulling her close. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. They stumbled toward the warehouse, disappearing inside. I tapped the app. The screens flared to life-graining night vision, painting them in green and black. She giggled, shrugging off her coat. "It's freezing, warm me up quick." Her voice crackled through the feed, tinny but sharp. Jose grinned, tugging her closer. "Rough day. Corporate's breathing down our necks tomorrow." "Tough luck," she teased, leaning in. "That manager's got no shot at a raise anyway." I watched them tangle up, hands roaming, oblivious. My stomach churned, but I couldn't look away. Every touch, every smirk it, fueled the fire in my gut. Enjoy it while it lasts, I thought, grabbing the lock from the passenger seat. My boots hit the gravel, quiet and deliberate, as I crept toward the warehouse. The wind bit my face, carrying the stench of damp wood and gasoline. The door loomed ahead, still ajar from their sloppy entrance. I peeked through the gap shadows, shifting, low moans echoing off the walls. My pulse hammered, but my hand stayed steady. I slid the bolt into place, metal scraping metal, the click loud in my ears. Locked. Done. I backed off fast, ducking behind a rusted barrel, and pulled the feet up again. They didn't notice for a while. I drove home, the truck rattling over potholes, and cracked a beer on the couch. Pizza box open, grease staining my fingers. I watched the show. At 1 a.m., Scarlett yanked at the door. "It's stuck," she snapped, her voice shrill. Jose banged on it, cursing. "What the hell? Call someone." "And say what?" she hissed, pacing. "We're screwing in here?" I grinned, sipping my beer. The cold sank in, they shivered, rubbing their arms. Then it hit them. Jose groaned, clutching his stomach. "I can't hold it." Scarlett glared. "Don't you dare!" Too late. He squatted in the corner, the smell hitting her a second later. "God damn it," she yelled, gagging. She lasted 10 minutes before caving, scrambling to the opposite side. The feed caught it, all their disgust, their panic. "You couldn't wait?" Jose snarled, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Like you did any better," she shot back, her face twisted. I laughed, loud and rough, nearly choking on my pizza. My phone buzzed her name on the screen. I hit call instead, singing, "Hey babe, love you." She picked up, frantic. "Aaron, stop." I hung up, called again, dragging it out till her battery blinked red. By dawn, they were slumped against the walls, shivering, reeking. Done. I leaned back, the beer can sweating in my hand. The room spun a little, but I felt alive, sharp, electric. They thought they could play me, but I'd flip the game. Tomorrow, I'd finish it. Mike would help, and they'd face the wreckage they'd made. For now, I watched them squirm, my grin widening with every miserable twitch. The sun was barely up, a gray smear over the horizon, when I dialed Mike. My voice stayed steady, even though my insides churned like a storm. "Hey man, Scarlett's stuck in some warehouse off Route 9. Can you back me up?" I gripped the phone, pacing the kitchen, the linoleum slick under my socks. "Stuck?" Mike's tone sharpened, sleep fading fast. "What's going on, Aaron?" "Just get there. I'll explain." I hung up, grabbed my keys and bolted. The truck roared to life, tires spitting gravel as I peeled out. My hands clenched the wheel, knuckles white, but my mind was razor sharp. Last night had been the trap. This morning was the kill shot. The motel lot was quiet when I pulled in, the air heavy with dew and exhaust. I parked near the warehouse, the rusted hulk squatting in the dawn light. My boots crunched over the gravel as I approached the door, the slide bolt glinting where I'd left it. I slid it back, metal scraping, and stepped away. No sense in rushing, they weren't going anywhere. I leaned against the truck, arms crossed, waiting for Mike. My breath fogged in the chill, each exhale a slow release of the fury I'd bottled up. Mike's Jeep rolled up 10 minutes later, dust kicking up as he braked hard. He climbed out, squinting at me. You look like hell. What's this about? His flannel shirt flapped in the breeze, and he rubbed his hands together against the cold. You'll see, I said, nodding toward the warehouse. Help me open it. My voice was flat, but my pulse hammered. We trudged over, gravel snapping underfoot. I grabbed the door and yanked it wide. The stench hit us first rancid, sour, a wall of rot that made Mike gag. Jesus, he choked, covering his nose. I didn't flinch. I'd been expecting it. Inside, Scarlett and Jose huddled against the far wall, shadows in the dim light. She was curled up, knees to her chest, hair a tangled mess. Jose slumped beside her, head in his hands, jeans stained dark. The floor near them glistened with filth hours of desperation caught on camera. Scarlett's eyes snapped up, wide and bloodshot. Aaron? Her voice cracked, raw with panic. Mike froze beside me. What the hell are they doing here? Ask them, I said, stepping inside. The air was thick, damp, the mildew mixing with their stink. My boots echoed on the concrete as I closed the gap. Scarlett scrambled to her feet, trembling. Aaron, I can explain. Save it. I cut her off, my tone ice cold. Jose looked up, his face pale, eyes darting like a trapped rat. I locked onto him. Your phone, hand it over. He blinked, sluggish. What? Your phone, I snapped, louder. Show me. If it's just work stuff, we're good. My words dripped with venom, daring him to lie. Why should I? He mumbled, shifting back. I smirked, stepping closer. If you've got nothing to hide, what's the problem? Unless you're screwing my wife. The words landed like a punch, and Scarlett flinched, a whimper escaping her lips. Mike sucked in a breath behind me, piecing it together. Give it up, man, Mike said, voice low but firm. Prove you're clean. Jose's hands shook as he fumbled in his pocket, pulling out the phone. He hesitated, then tossed it at my feet. I snatched it up, the screen smudged with grime. One swipe, and there it was. Videos, photos, timestamps, Scarlett laughing, half-dressed, Jose grinning beside her. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face stone. I turned the screen to Mike. Take a look. He leaned in, jaw tightening. Holy crap, Aaron. This is proof, I finished, tossing the phone back to Jose. It clattered on the floor. You two thought you could play me. Guess what? Game's over. Scarlett sobbed, hugging herself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Shut up, I barked, my voice bouncing off the walls. She shrank back, tears streaking her face. I turned to Jose. You're done too. Married guy, huh? Bet your wife will love this. He lurched up, fists clenched. You set us up, you bastard. Damn right I did, I roared, stepping into his space. He flinched, and I saw the fear in his eyes good. You don't get to act righteous. I locked you in, watched you squirm. Cameras caught everything, every word, every mess you made. I pointed to the corner, the lens glinting. It's all on tape. Mike grabbed my arm. Aaron, ease up. We should call the cops. No, I said, shaking him off. Not yet. Lawyer first. I faced them again, my voice dropping low, lethal. This state lets me sue for cheating. Divorce for her. Damages from both of you. You're gonna pay cash, reputation, everything. Scarlett slid down the wall, sobbing harder. Please, Aaron, don't. Too late, I said, turning away. My chest heaved, adrenaline crashing through me. I'd won, but it didn't feel clean. Her cries clawed at me, a faint echo of the love I'd buried. I shoved it down deep, where it couldn't touch me. Jose just stared, broken, the fight drained out of him. Mike shifted beside me, uneasy. You sure about this, man? This is heavy. Yeah, I said, staring at the open door. I'm sure. The morning light spilled in, harsh and unforgiving, illuminating the wreckage. My hands balled into fists, nails digging into my palms. I'd caught them, humiliated them, and now I'd ruined them. It wasn't enough, nothing would be, but it was a start. Let's go, I told Mike, heading out. The gravel crunched under my boots again, each step heavier than the last. I didn't look back. Scarlett's wails faded, swallowed by the wind. In the truck, I slumped against the seat, my breath ragged. My phone buzzed, the camera feed still running. I shut it off, the screen going black. Victory burned in my throat, bitter and sharp. But something else lingered, emptiness, maybe. Or the ghost of who I used to be. I didn't care. They'd pay, and I'd make damn sure of it. 2 years later, my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, rattling against a half-empty coffee mug. Scarlett's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it, my thumb hovering, the hum of the fridge filling the quiet apartment. The morning light sliced through the blinds, dust motes swirling in the beams. I hit answer, leaning back in my chair, the wood creaking under me. "What?" I said, voice flat. Her breath hitched on the other end, shaky. "Aaron, it's done. The payment squirt's off my back. Can we just be done?" I smirked, tapping a finger on the mug. The ceramic was cold, stained brown from yesterday's brew. "Done, huh? You think that erases it?" "I've paid enough," she whispered, her words trembling. "Please." I didn't reply right away. The fridge kicked off, leaving a hollow silence. 2 years since that warehouse, mourning 2 years of lawyers, court dates, and watching her and Jose squirm under the weight of damages. The judge had ruled in my favor. The state didn't mess around with infidelity lawsuits. They'd forked over every cent, and I'd cashed the checks without a second thought. But it wasn't enough, not really. Jose called an hour later, his voice gravelly, like he'd smoked a pack overnight. "Look, man, I'm tapped out, paid up. Leave me alone, all right?" I stood, pacing to the window. The street below was quiet, kids on bikes, a dog barking somewhere. "Tapped out," I said low and sharp. "You don't get to decide when it's over." "What more do you want?" he snapped, then caught himself softening. "I've got nothing left." I pulled up the files on my phone clips from that night, their faces frozen in green-tinted panic. "One tap," I said, and these hit the internet. Anonymous, viral, everywhere. "You want to test me?" He went quiet, a long pause crackling through the line. "You're a bastard," he muttered. "Learn from the best." I shot back. Scarlett tried again the next day, her tone desperate. "Aaron, he forced me, I didn't want." "Bull." I cut in, my voice a blade. "You picked him. Own it." I sent her a still, her laughing, mid-embrace. "Tell that story to the world. See who buys it." She sobbed, a broken sound that clawed at me for a second. I shook it off, staring at the screen. "Here's the deal," I said. "You both send me cash monthly, quiet. Or this leaks. Your call." Jose caved first. "Fine. How much?" "500, I said, picking a number. "Each." "Done," he grunted. Scarlett followed, her "okay" barely audible through tears. I hung up, tossing the phone on the counter. It skidded, stopping against a stack of bills. The apartment was still too still, smelling faintly of stale pizza and dust. I grabbed my keys, the metal cold in my hand, and headed out. The corner store was a 5-minute walk, the air crisp, leaves crunching under my boots. I snagged a pizza and a burger, the cashier barely glancing up as I paid. Back home, I kicked the door shut, dropped the food on the table. The burger wrapper crinkled as I tore it open, grease slick on my fingers. I took a bite, hot, salty, perfect. The pizza box flipped open next, steam curling up. I ate alone, the television off, the room lit by a single bulb swaying overhead. They'd pay for ever my own personal cash machines. A grin tugged at my lips, sharp and crooked. I'd won, turned their betrayal into my leverage. But as I chewed, the quiet pressed in, heavy and thick. No laughter, no fights, just me and the ghosts of what used to be. I swallowed, the taste lingering, bitter at the edges. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The cracks were still there, same as always. Maybe I'd fix them someday. Or maybe I wouldn't. For now, this was enough pizza, a burger, and the sweet sting of victory.